Since the war began just over a fortnight ago, the Iranian human rights group, HRANA, estimates the number killed in Iran is around 3,000, including 1,300 civilians. More than 850 are reported to have been killed in Lebanon, and 800,000 people have fled their homes there. Retaliatory missile strikes have killed 12 Israelis, and thousands have been reported injured. 2 Israeli soldiers have also been killed in southern Lebanon. 30 people are thought to have been killed in Iraq. The United Arab Emirates Defense Ministry said 6 people have been killed there by Iranian attacks. 6 deaths are reported in Kuwait, 2 in Saudi Arabia, 2 in Bahrain, and 2 in Syria. 14 US military personnel have died in the region, and a drone attack killed a French soldier serving in northern Iraq. Jonathan Rugnan reports now on the latest events in the Middle East as the Iranian government says it is not ready to do a deal with the United States.
The city of Isfahan was targeted by US and Israeli airstrikes, with at least 15 people reported killed. In Tehran, this was the Iranian Space Agency. The Israelis said it contained a military research laboratory. But for all their combat supremacy, the limits to this air campaign are ever more obvious. The price of petrol is now up 25% in the US, and while President Trump claims to be way ahead of schedule, his administration is under growing pressure to declare victory soon.
The conflict will come to the end in the next few weeks, and we'll see a rebound in supplies and a pushing down of prices after that. But yes, we were very aware that we would have short-term disruption.
Can you guarantee it'll just be weeks before prices go down?
Hey, there's no guarantees in wars at all. I can guarantee the situation would be dramatically worse without this military operation to defang the Iranian regime.
Iran's Revolutionary Guard claims it has now started firing this Sajil ballistic missile. It runs on solid rather than liquid fuel, which makes it harder to detect prior to launch. We don't know how many of these speedboats Iran still has left in the Strait of Hormuz. This training exercise was filmed last month. What we do know is that the Americans have been unable to keep the waterway open. Several navies from the UK to China have been asked to help. So if the White House had a plan to protect this vital sea lane, well, it isn't obvious.
تنگه هرمز باز نخواهد شد. هیچ ناو آمریکایی حق ورود به خلیج فارس ندارن.
The Strait of Hormuz will not be opened. Not a single American Navy vessel will be allowed to enter the Persian Gulf. How this war ends is in our control. We will only look at it when we have received full reparations from America for the destruction caused.
Iran is also continuing to attack Israel, where dozens of people were injured in several explosions. Israel's foreign minister has denied that his country is running low on missile interceptors. And though President Trump claims Iran wants to make a deal to end the war, it claims no such proposal exists.
We never asked for a ceasefire, and we have never asked even for negotiation. We are ready to defend ourselves as long as it takes, and this is what we have done so far, and we continue to do that until President Trump comes to the point that this is an illegal war with no victory.
Iran's Red Crescent claims over 1,300 civilians have been killed in US and Israeli airstrikes so far. That may not be enough to persuade this tyrannical regime to negotiate. And with President Trump using social media to encourage other countries to send warships, you wonder if this conflict is going as much to plan as he says.
Well, here in Israel, the government denied reports that it is set to hold direct talks with Lebanon in the coming days. Over 1,000 strikes have been carried out against Lebanon, according to the Israeli Prime Minister's office, since the start of this conflict. The World Health Organization has released $2 million of emergency funds to Lebanon, Iraq and Syria. Well, I'm joined now by the former Deputy Mayor of Jerusalem, Fleur Hassan Nahum, who's now a trade envoy for Israel. Thanks for coming on the programme.
Thanks, Matt.
Do America and Israel still have the same war aims? You started this war together 16 days ago. The Americans are dead set on opening up the Straits of Hormuz. That is not your priority.
Well, it doesn't matter if the same priorities, but we have the same aims. And that is getting rid of this very destructive, very poisonous regime, which is called...
But the Americans aren't talking about regime change anymore.
Well, I think they... Perhaps they're not talking about it, but really that's the result that's going to happen from destroying all the installations of the IRGC. How can the regime remain standing after this and after the next few weeks? That's going to continue.
You bombed Gaza for a year and a half relentlessly, and Hamas hasn't even disarmed yet. Don't you think the same will happen in Iran, which is a nation of 60 million people with an entrenched government that's been there for 50 years?
The difference is that 82% of the Iranian people don't want the regime that's been oppressing them, repressing them for 47 years. They came out on the streets in the millions. That's the difference. They have a leader in waiting. That's the difference. I wish we would have seen the people in Gaza going out on the streets and saying, we don't want this poisonous, destructive regime anymore ruling us.
With every day that the Straits of Hormuz stay closed, the price of petrol in America goes up and Donald Trump becomes less popular in a war that wasn't popular from the very beginning because he never asked the American people about it. He never made the case. Are you not worried that he's going to declare victory and just go away and you'll be left alone?
Well, from what he's saying, what from his Secretary of War is saying, from what his Chairman of the Joint Chiefs is saying, they're very resolute to get rid of this very poisonous threat that threatens the whole region and threatens them.
Yeah, but he's the boss. Trump's the boss. He changes his mind every day.
They tried to kill him twice.
Yeah.
They tried to kill him twice. And now the people who try to kill him are dead. Do you really think he's just going to turn around and go home as after coming this far?
He's done it before. I mean, he changes his mind on a regular basis. So what makes you think you can trust Donald Trump to be by your side for the long haul on this?
Ultimately, we're by America's side on a war that was needed. This is the generational war. This is the generational threat that the people in the West don't seem to understand. Look, when Churchill made the case for getting rid of Hitler, nobody listened to him. Chamberlain signed an appeasement deal and the Second World War happened. The Third World War will happen if we don't get rid of this Islamic regime in Iran.
Yeah, but America is also a democracy, and that is not the way American voters see it, and we've got midterm elections coming up. I can see your point in this war, I can see your aims, but America's different. Isn't there a danger for you, for Israel, that you're going to be more isolated than ever before?
Why would we be isolated? What has Iran done? It's created more enemies in the region. Qatar, which was almost an ally of theirs.
But they're not happy about this war. They didn't want this war to start.
Saudi Arabia. Yeah, but they're not blaming Trump.
They are blaming Trump. In private, they're blaming Trump.
The UAE, Saudi Arabia. And look what's happening in Lebanon right now. The Lebanese people are fed up of Hezbollah, which is a proxy of Hamas, of the Iranian regime.
But these Gulf states are all blaming Trump as well. They didn't want this war. They didn't ask for this war. They had their modus operandi with the Iranians.
Which is containment?
Yes.
How well did that work?
That's another subject for another day.
Well, it's not, because ultimately...
But they're watching their economies go up the spout.
The debate is this. Do you believe that a poisonous, apocalyptic regime like Iran can be contained? Can you mow the lawn? Or do you have to eventually get rid of it?
Mow the lawn. That's a horrible phrase, isn't it?
Well, no, why? You have to... mowing the lawn is containment. Ultimately, do we weaken them every couple of years? Do we have a war every couple of years with them? Do we attack them every couple of years? Or do you do what their people are begging us to do, which is getting rid of the toxic regime that is oppressing them?
But you might get a war every couple of years anyway, and next time around, America might not be on your side.
We've been at war since the 7th of October, with Hamas, 8th of October, with Hezbollah, all proxies of the regime in Iran.
Perpetual war. Got to leave it there. Hassan Nahum, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Well, at least 4 people have been killed in an Israeli airstrike in Gaza, including 2 boys and a woman pregnant with twins. The health authorities in Gaza said the strike hit a house in the refugee camp of Nuseirat, killing a couple in their 30s and their 10-year-old son. A 15-year-old neighbor was also killed. And in the West Bank, funerals were held for a Palestinian family killed by Israeli forces. The couple and their 4 children were traveling in their car in the town of Tamum when Israeli soldiers opened fire, killing all but 2 of the children. That's it from us in Jerusalem. Let's go to Aisha in London for the rest of the day's news. Aisha.
Thanks, Matt. Here, the government has been at pains to walk a narrow line between responding to Donald Trump's request to send ships to help in the Strait of Hormuz and diffusing tensions in the region, all the while attempting to allay fears in Britain over the potential for spiralling oil, gas and petrol costs. Earlier, I spoke to the Energy Secretary, Ed Miliband, and started by asking him what the UK position was to Donald Trump's request.
Well, it is very important that we get the Strait of Hormuz open if we possibly can, because it's the closure of the strait that has led to the rise in oil and gas prices that we're seeing around the world. And that's why we're talking to our allies. The Prime Minister has spoken to European leaders. The Foreign Secretary was in Saudi Arabia talking to Gulf partners about this. So obviously those discussions are going on intensively, because we do want to do everything we can to get the strait reopened.
And how exactly are we going to do that?
Well, obviously it's important that I don't speculate exactly on these operational matters, but there are different ways that we can contribute to the reopening of this important shipping lane. I think the other thing I will say, though, is that the best thing we can do is to de-escalate this conflict.
You're calling for de-escalation. How does sending ships or possibly drones do that?
Look, what we do operationally is obviously something we will discuss with our allies, but rest assured that the Prime Minister has, throughout this crisis, he didn't take part in the initial attack. He's been working for the de-escalation of this conflict. So we will continue to work on all fronts to seek an end to this conflict.
The White House has said they may just strike Carg Island just for fun. Does that sound like de-escalation to you?
You know, I'm not going to speculate on things that the White House or President Trump might be saying. What matters to us
He has said that.
What matters is pursuing our own national interest. Our national interest was not to join the initial attack, was to help with the protection of our citizens and our allies, and now to de-escalate this conflict.
I'm just wondering if you're comfortable with that rhetoric, with that messaging, when people in the region and people around the world are scared by what's going on. Are you comfortable?
I think nobody wants to see this war happening. In terms of the UK government, when we see the impacts on civilians, when we see the impacts potentially on our own economy, we've got to bring this conflict to an end.
Speaking about our own economy, what are you going to do to protect rural communities in particular who are worrying about the cost of heating oil?
We're determined to fight people's corner in this conflict. That's why we've made clear to those heating oil companies, we cannot have price gouging, we cannot have unfair practices. Tomorrow the Chancellor will be announcing help for people who are facing hardship as a result of the increase in heating oil prices. We're determined to fight for people in this conflict.
What's your evidence of this price gouging, though?
I think many people who've had experience over the last 2 weeks will think they haven't been treated fairly by some of the heating oil companies. That's why we've been talking to the CMA. The CMA, the Competition and Markets Authority, is now investigating this. So they're asking for the sort of clarity about what has been going on. And there's a wider look that we need at this whole sector and the way the sector works.
What are the lessons that should be learned from this, and what should energy dependency look like in the future?
The most important lesson, the overriding lesson of this crisis is we've got to get off fossil fuel markets, which we don't control. Because the truth about these markets is that we are a price taker, not a price maker. So whether oil and gas comes from the North Sea or is imported from abroad, it's set at the same price internationally.
I've heard you say this before, and I've heard you say this for years. So when is this going to happen?
Well, it is happening. Because what we've seen in 20 months in government, we've had 2 record-breaking renewables auctions, which have provided enough power to help to connect 23 million homes. And every solar panel we put up, every wind turbine we build, every piece of grid we construct helps protect the British people precisely from crises like these.
Mr. Miliband, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.